I call David Clinton.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Mr Chair, I'm pleased to be able to speak to this very bad piece of draft legislation, a very disingenuous bill, I should say. I think my favourite part of it is in 7 part 2. We get this wonderful formula which purports to be an objective, a formula intended to produce a transparent, measurable, non-arbitrary outcome. So I had the privilege and benefit of studying economics as part of my master's program at Lincoln, and part of the discovery for me in terms of discovering economics was the extent to which economists rely on what are apparently very complex and convoluted formulae, and indeed they are, but inevitably they rest on a very dodgy basic assumption which is almost inevitably flawed. And I think of that when I see this, because this formula purports to produce a way of establishing income changes for MPs that is not arbitrary, that is transparent. What it endeavours to disguise rather, is the political opportunism that lies beneath this bill, because I've seldom seen a piece of legislation that was such a pure expression of political opportunism. The PM, his cohort, saw an opportunity to capture the public outcry, the annual public outcry following the announcement of the Remuneration Authority that MPs were going to get another pay rise. So this cannot have been news to this government that the public has been unhappy about the way in which MPs are awarded annual pay rises. The Green Party has been ringing this bell for many years and highlighting the importance, the necessity of finding a non-arbitrary means, a fair and reasonable means of establishing what is appropriate remuneration for MPs. We are absolutely in favour of linking it to something in the real world. The point about this legislation, it's chosen something more or less at random, in this case public service, the increases or not. That's a defensible proposition. There are many more other defensible propositions, and Mr Hipkins touched on this in his contribution earlier. We've seen the Greens have put forward our ideas about what we could link it to. I know the PSA, the public sector unions, have offered a solution, something we could link to. I'm sure that if the Remuneration Authority themselves had the opportunity to speak to a select committee, they actually might come up with some pretty sensible ideas about how we could do something better than simply sending them away to come up with a number every year, having the public outcry and then getting on with business as usual. This is an appalling abuse of parliamentary process. There is no urgency underlying this legislation. It is not news that the public gets unhappy every year. It is not news that the way in which we set MP salary, conditions, benefits and the like has been a question, a debatable, and a point that's been contested for a very long time. I deny anybody to say that there is genuine urgency to resolve this matter here today. From the points been made several times, we thought we'd be having this debate a week ago, but then with no notice, the urgency motion we expected, I think on Wednesday afternoon, simply didn't eventuate, with no information coming to at least 2 of the parties in this House, representing about 20% of its membership, actually did not know what was going to be going on that afternoon, because the Leader of the House did not deign to tell us what was going to be going on, reflecting the utter confusion of this government, who had this bright idea that they'd ride this populist wave by coming out speaking against the proposed increase in MP salaries, but suddenly realised actually it's not as simple as that. You need some smart thinking, you need some information, some analysis, you need input from expert authorities, organisations, interest groups. It's called a select committee process. It's called a sensible, deliberate, sober addressing of a problem to come to the best solution. I have to say I've been surprised to hear from our other opposition parties today a very good critique of this bill. There have been some very accurate and clear critique of it, highlighting its many flaws. And again, I think a Labor speaker highlighted the fact that inevitably we'll get unexpected outcomes, we'll get perverse outcomes, because we don't really know what we're signing up for tonight, Mr. Chair.
David Cleandon.
The point's been made that some people are actually trusting that the government has got it near enough right to merit having this bill supported today. We don't think they've got it anywhere near right. We think that given a proper parliamentary process, we could probably come to a robust position that would actually endure over time, that would be fit for purpose, none of which you can say about this bill. Any legislation that's drafted in a great rush based on an enthusiasm to appeal to populism, to the public mood, to have a crack at MPs, and fairly so, that is almost inevitably doomed to fail. What is the urgency around this? And I would be interested to hear from the Minister. What is the reason for urgency on this? The real underlying reason. Yes, there was public outcry, as there was last year and the year before that and the year before that. Why was a bill to change the process, to change the system, not brought to the House 3 years ago, 5 years ago, by this government? Why did they wait until there was an outcry, a big media storm about it, and suddenly decide to resort to this very shabby process to make law in the course of 5 or 6 hours, which inevitably will deliver suboptimal outcomes? So this is a very poor way to make law. The content is weak. It's obviously been thrown together in great haste. The process is appalling. It's anti-democratic, and we are pleased to be and proud to be opposing this abuse of parliamentary time.